And we on live.
What's up? Welcome back.
What's up?
What's up, party people? I hope everyone's doing great out there.
Yes.
We are
Yes,
so excited to have everyone today. Today we got another fantastic topic. We're going to talk about mental illness.
That's crazy.
You may be crazy, but that's factual.
Touche. Touche.
My
But
therapist said we can't use that word no more.
Who
yeah,
said that?
My therapist.
Well, she's crazy.
Yeah,
Maybe.
but let's we're gonna jump in today. We want to wish Matt well in his travels, so
Yeah.
shout out to him. But we still here, and the show must roll. So here we
The
go.
show
Let's
must
get it.
go on.
When we talk about mental illness and we talk about dads, it's expected of us to be able to recognize mental illness as well as hopefully come up with some solutions. And I'm not sure how many of us have experienced some fashion or some sort of mental illness within our own immediate families. Although I'm sure it's quite a few of us, or at least let me speak for myself. I've experienced it several times from my immediate family and also my distant family. I initially said that it's one of those taboo subjects because a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but three of my family members have been institutionalized for mental illness for extended periods of time. So it's something that's very prevalent, and I think it's something that we need to talk about. And as dads, knowing and understanding this mental health crisis that we're currently going through, um, I think it will prepare us and hopefully give us some definitely tools that we can use to work alongside our families. Um, let's check in. Let's go around the horn and everybody just kind of elaborate if you feel so inclined to do so, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Who would like to kick us off?
It's good to
I'll
see
jump in.
everybody.
You guys.
Yeah.
You guys. Oh, it's great to see y'all too. It's the best. One of the best days of the
Best
week.
nights of
You know,
the week.
the one that ends in Y. Anyway, I've got mental illness in my family. Clearly, you guys already know it's pretty much me. Um,
Well,
but
go on now, Doc. I mean, we all have some sort of. We've all gone through COVID and trauma and all the things. You're not wrong in
right.
that. That it's us.
Well,
Too.
and then
Somewhat.
some. But anyway, yeah, I think Josh, you bring up a great point with the COVID. I think all of us went through a little bit of situational depression. Families, kids, not being able to go to school and see their friends and socialize like they're supposed to. Um, I'm sure I don't know the statistics, but I almost guarantee it caused a whole heck of a lot of divorces or separations, at least. Being in those confines that long,
Yeah.
it's bound to wear on the psyche. But I I was in the same program as Matt at Liberty University doing the counseling degree program. Unfortunately, I dropped out because they changed the curriculum from when Matt went through and when I was going through. It's no longer a program that has a pathway to citizenship, to licensure or certification. So I was,
Getting a little nervous, huh?
yeah, man.
You gotta go. You gotta
What's that?
go.
What's that knock on the door?
You gotta go.
Well, I
That
think I'm
front
gonna go ahead
door
and sit
with
this
the
one
four
out right
boards,
quick.
so don't hurt him no more.
Right? He no here. But anyway, so I figured it wasn't worth going. I don't need a piece of paper to tell me my worth. I need a piece of paper to help me get my foot in the door to where I can help other people out. So
Right.
I quit that program. But my whole point is every day I deal with it. I have a phone call from somebody every day that's either having a bad day or just needs to get something off their chest. And I think that kind of gives me an advantage when I'm dealing with my kids because
Mm.
I've been exposed to all of it for over 30 years. I've been doing it, and so I don't want to say it's easier. If anything, it's probably tougher knowing what I know. You know what they say: the more you know, the more scared you are when it comes to certain things. So, in a way, it's easier to deal with it, but it's a lot harder because you're emotionally connected to it,
Yeah.
if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
True.
absolutely.
True.
Hey, just real quick before we move on to our next person, since Doc mentioned some stats, read this one pandemic stat. It says COVID-19 pandemic had a significant impact on family mental health. Studies show that families experience an increased stress, anxiety, depression due to isolation, financial strain, and uncertainty. A 2020 survey by the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention CDC reported 40% of adults in the United States experienced mental health challenges due to the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, I think that seems like, look at it like Doc said. I mean, you're confined to your house. There's nothing in the grocery store. Your kids are there, your spouse is there. There's only so many projects you can do. We're walking around with masks, we walk around following arrows, like all the things that we were made to do or suggested that we do, like just incorporate all of it. And it's a complete flip from how we lived life before that. It's almost like before 9/11 happened. And I think, I
Yeah.
don't know if I told you guys a story. Like, I went on a mission trip in seventh grade when I lived in Colorado. I brought a machete back with me, like a,
Right.
a legit machete in a like a big one. And they're like, I carried it through the airport, and they're like, you can't bring that on the plane. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to get it back? I'm like, in seventh grade. They're like, oh, we'll put a tag on it and it'll be there in Denver when you get there. I'm a mess because I don't think my machete's coming through. It came through on the baggage line. So I think when 9/11 happened, and I try to tell my kids, like, we used to be able to go to the door of the plane to see people off. Not anymore. COVID, we
Right.
used to be able to do this, and now we can't anymore. That's just a complete mental shift on everything, how we communicate, how we conversate, communicate, gather together, do all these. I mean, look at this. I mean, Zoom and like everybody's making a fortune because that's where the world has gotten to, some good and some bad. But mentally, I think where we learned a lot of things that we could and couldn't do during that. I think the biggest thing is mentally, it just wrecked what we knew as life and what we knew as how we functioned, and brought a lot of that stuff to light in a good way. I mean, I went to therapy after COVID. We all need therapy after COVID, going through that with all of our family in there. But that's me. It's a different it's a different world now.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. I noticed Amy put in the chat, it said, if I'm not mistaken, the suicide rate jumped as well for adults and kids. And it definitely did. Not only that, but the divorce rate. Spending all that time, even though we call this lovely person beside us a spouse, again, with no ability to kind of, for lack of better words, I say escape, but just getting an opportunity to breathe and kind of exhale a little bit was difficult during those times.
I was like, she's sitting right here.
Right.
I'm used to one of these numbers right here. Who that?
So what I
And I
so what
said,
I'm gonna move on past COVID, but I tell you, one of the things that I worry about with this particular topic is that my son is he's very shy, and he's he's very introverted, and so sometimes it's really hard to get things out of him. And I worry about the fact that if he's being bullied at school, if something's going on, he'll tell me eventually. But man, it's like going to the dentist and pulling teeth. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's really tough. So I'm constantly worried about him. Now my daughter, on the other hand, she's super outgoing, little Miss Personality, little cheerleader, this, that, the other. So I don't worry about her from that aspect of it too much because I know she would talk to me, but I struggle with the boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember before we transitioned to the school we're at now, there was a period of time where my oldest was coming home. I say like 2 or 3 days a week. Just like, I don't think I have any friends, and he was in that kind of that stage, third grade. I don't have any friends and all that stuff, and I was kind of shocked because I was like, do you see what I see? Do you see what I see in terms of the person that you are? even in third grade, everybody's always talking about when we go to an open house or some type of school event, everybody's running up and saying hello to them. So I didn't really know where that was coming from. But I do see how, important it is for kids to feel liked or to, have or develop social skills early, make connections. It was tough. It was tough on Mom and I when we first went into COVID because he was, going into that for the first time, had transitioned after one part of or one segment of this year, and then the full year the very next year. So it was the whole year being virtual. And there were times where I would just come to the room and just look. I would be kind of sad, just like you see these kids on a box, little tiles, and I'm sitting there, and he's much smaller than he is now, but just looking at him from behind, just like, wow, I wonder what he's thinking. Can't touch and feel the kids and can't talk to them other than just through the box and stuff. So that was a tough time for me just to kind of watch him during that time. But now we were talking about in a couple other sessions with this weather. Now to see him, it's just a different person. But we went through those times where when they were isolated, when he came back, it was like having to reprogram this whole friendship notion. Like, I don't think I have any friends. And I think some of that was just because you didn't have that chance to be around them enough to say, no, these are still your friends. You're just actually getting to see them again. You're getting to socialize in person and trying to figure that out. And that was pretty tough to watch that. So I went my emotions were more centered around watching him and making sure he was okay.
Yeah. 3 of my family members have been in person and trying to figure that out.
Somebody-
Apologize.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, I think it took a lot of people from, I've talked to many people where their kids or themselves were like, they were outgoing adults, outgoing kids, all of that, and COVID just completely flipped the script on them of, hey, they had to pull everything back in and weren't able to let it back out when COVID opened because it was something new. Look, I was out. Like, I didn't stay in. I didn't do any of those things. Sorry, whoever's listening that didn't, whatever. But I remember being at Target one time, and I'm like, it's just like, I love to people watch, but I'm like, okay, this is really happening. Like, nobody's out. So I was out there and I'm going through and I'm pretty positive, but I have my own stuff of like, I'm a worrier, some depression stuff, some anxiety stuff, which I think we have as men, as dads, all that stuff. But I'm walking through this store and you can see the the mental, like, them struggling. Like, I walked in one time and the lady had on a full, it almost looked like a back in the day, like a Janet Jackson video. Like, she had the full giddy up on, glasses, gloves, everything, like, going through the aisle. And I'm like, did you look at yourself before you walked out the house? But then you pull it back now and we're outside of that. And you're like, they were so scared, nervous, frustrated, didn't want to go. And their mind, how all of that just played with all of us to go, man, I've got to do this. And what did it do to everybody in the process we all were drained. I don't know if you guys remember. I was like, not physically tired during COVID, just mentally tired. We watched the news. You're constantly trying to find something to do. You can't work or you can work. You can't leave your house. It was tough. I think it was tough for everyone.
So I know if we go back to when the first announcement came in and start shutting things down because what was going on in Europe and I think it was code orange and all that good stuff. We was about to send our volleyball team to Italy. We had raised all this money for a trip and shut it down. Our track team was in Arkansas at the conference championship and regionals and had to fly back home and whatnot. And so when the university finally pivoted to fully online, believe it or not, I made a decision that I was going to try to lose weight because I was at the heaviest that I'd ever been. I was like, well, if I'm going to be in isolation and we can't go in anywhere, I'm going to lose some weight. And I'm going to fast track this story, but I think I told you guys off camera. I bought this book from Men's Health. It was like a man, a pan, and a plan. And it literally was about you could make all your meals with one little frying pan, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but it was all about portion control and just, making smaller meals and things like that. But I followed that thing religiously. I mean, I lost like 40 pounds, but what happened actually was in December of 2020 when my whole household, with the exception of one, got COVID. And I had a battle that I thought I was leaving. I couldn't breathe. I called the hospital. Then they said, man, you're going to have about a 3 or 4 hour wait for a bed. And I was like, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to do it at the house. I'm not going to go sit in the lobby and can't get a bed or whatever. And that was a scary time right there. So you talk about like your mental strength and things of that nature. Obviously, I was tapping into my belief system, praying and really anchoring down on, okay, Lord, I know you didn't bring me here to take me out like this, but it was still a time where you're starting to reflect on wish I had done this. I wish I spent more time doing this and all that other stuff. And so when we came on the other side of that, it's kind of changed my approach. My approach has changed quite a bit because that was a time when you saw people close to you leaving, and then you get that second chance or whatever. It puts in perspective of life and family and experiences and other things like that. So I mean, it was a crazy time, but inside the Hart household, it was eye-opening because of having gone through it personally and feeling like, man, if this is it, this is a really crappy way to go out. But what are you going to do when you're blessed and the next steps you're going to take? So I can reflect on that. But I got another story, but I'm going to save it because we're talking about mental health and some of the things that men do, some of the things we do that could be counterproductive. But I'll share it a little bit later because it's about a time when my sister died, and something that I think about still to this day about shutting down. And I'll tease you, but I'll tell you about
Teaser.
it before we.
Well,
It's a
I'm going to
teaser.
share something with you guys since you went down that road, Eric. I was hospitalized for COVID back in 21, and while I was in the hospital, I had a heart attack, and that was the most scared I've ever been. That includes combat because at least in combat, you have this false sense of reality that you have some sort of control. You have a weapon in your hand, you can return fire, you think you're in control. You're really not. But laying in that hospital bed all by myself and being an ER trauma nurse, I knew what was happening. And then when I called the nurse to come in, she's like, "Oh, no, 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 you're not having a heart attack." First of all, it took, I kid you not, about 5 to 10 minutes for them to even respond to the call light. And that day, I thought I was gone. And I've shared with you guys before that I've struggled with my faith in the past. I'm definitely coming back to it. But that day, when I started having those symptoms and I knew what it was, the first thought in my mind wasn't family. It wasn't anything but, wow, I guess today's the day I find out if he's real.
Wow.
And so that put me in a really, really bad depression. I went, because this was literally 2 months after I'd retired. So, and ironically, I had the heart attack on the anniversary date that I went to boot camp. So that's a date I'll never forget. But I bring that up to say that it's affected me so much that I'm back to having trouble sleeping. I'm scared. I'll be honest. I'm scared to go to sleep. I'm afraid I'm not going to wake up. So there's several nights. I've already had 2 nights this week that I've been up all night. I can't sleep. So, and that affects me when I'm dealing with my kids' mental health.
Everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially.
Like life. Are you hungry? Are you not? Can you take your kids? Can you not? Can you feel up to it? Like it. I'm with you. Like I'm on the sleep deprived or not sleeping or whatever. And I haven't quite figured out what it is yet, but I get on my 3 hours of sleep and I'm good for like the day. Like I'm rolling, but there's got to be something to that. And to bring it back around, obviously, to what Debo was saying, like us as dads, I think what gets lost sometimes is that we're the tough, hard, got to take it all in. We
Yep.
can't, no emotion, no feelings, whatever. And not saying that moms don't, not saying that women don't, but since we're talking dads, that stuff gets heavy. We just carry it differently. It's all up here. It doesn't, we may not carry it all heart wise. Some of us do, some of us don't, but we just carry it all up here. And then it just, like I don't know what you got, if I wake up, my mind just runs. It runs about what I did that day before, what I did get done, what I didn't get done, what I got to do the next day. And then I'll go down this rabbit hole of whatever. And then it's just like, oh my gosh. And before I know it, it's an hour. It's almost like, for me, it's almost like scrolling right on TikTok. People are like, oh, I got lost in the vacuum. Well, shoot, I lay there for an hour going, all right, so I did this, I didn't do this. And then it's like, oh, my kids, oh, this. And I plan out like this whole, like 2 years. And next thing I know, it's like 2 hours later. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I'm tired, and then I don't even remember it anymore. Like, it's just the brain of a man. I'd like to go inside mine, but I'm scared to go inside mine. But
Me too.
You
We
bring
carry
it
it all.
down. I don't think I want no parts of that.
No, I mean, I think we
No.
just the way we carry it and the way we process it. I mean, we know that, men are from Mars and women are from Venus or, a smarter planet, but it doesn't take away from the fact that we still struggle with that mental health. We don't know what to do all of the time. That's why I love this. And I know Matt said it and you guys have said it too. This is huge because it's just like, I feel like I'm sitting like, at the bar or sitting watching a game or, at the barbershop or on the couch or outside by the pool or something. Like we're just hanging, talking. And it's very much needed for men. It's needed for everyone in general. We're talking about mental health, but it's very much needed for men. We're the head of the household. We're supposed to be leaders. We're supposed to fix everything. We're supposed to carry it all and be strong enough. And this is a good way to recharge, obviously for me and hopefully everybody. There's other people that get that out of this too.
Yeah. So let me kind of push forward a little bit, or push in a little bit, shall I say? So it sounds to me like there's a certain set of facts that we know we should be doing, such as possibly getting more sleep or whatever, but we're not doing it. As men, what do you feel the disconnect is? And better yet, another part of that, or the part B to that question is, how do you recognize that? And how do you bring it to your conscious man instead of your subconscious? Like, I think a lot of times we let it, or we try to keep it dormant, so we actually don't have to put action to it.
Right.
And so how do we unpack that as dads? Because there's one thing to know what to do. There's another thing to actually do what you know is right, or what's going to be in the best interest of yourself longevity wise.
Yeah.
Well, I
and
think
we don't like that. And we don't like to ask for, sorry, Doc, and we don't like to ask for help.
No, I got a full tank of gas.
This is huge. We'll just, that's why I don't need directions. I know where we at.
Well,
right here.
Right.
Once again,
right
it goes
here.
back to ego, right? We're too prideful. We know what's wrong, whether it's subconsciously or consciously. But again, society's kind of placed some unreal expectations on us as well. It's important for everyone to know, especially men, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not okay to not be okay and not ask for help or do something about it. And that's where we run into trouble. We're too prideful to step aside and say, I need help, because our family views us as the guy, right? And in our minds, we don't want to be looked at as lesser or weak or
True.
incompetent. So we just suck it up. And that's the problem right there. I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, there lies the problem.
Yep.
Hugely guilty of it.
And that's why we die of heart attacks, because we try to internalize everything and not seek the help that we so desperately need.
Yeah. That's why it's, in my world, it's why life insurance is so much more expensive for men. We don't live as long, but we also, that's the biggest factor. But if you drill all of that stuff down,
yours is so expensive because of P&E and mortality expenses and lapse ratios and all that stuff, and come on to the other side.
Yep.
Private mutual companies.
Don't call that
That's
man for
right.
life insurance, y'all. Do not
For
call
just
that man.
$29.99, call Eric now, and you can get a deal of a lifetime.
Right. And if you call in the next
I was just playing with
36 minutes,
You'll get a free steak knife.
So I would so going back to that talk about ego. I think ego in my situation. So when my just the backstory, my sister and I were born on the same day, 2 years apart. So we were non-biological twins, but we acted like we were twins. And it was one of those things. That song, "My Buddy," back in the days, "My buddy, wherever I go,
my buddy and me.
So that was my buddy. You know, I
Love it.
was hurt when she left to go to Carolina, and I was hurt. You know, I'm still at the house and everything, and wanted to go visit and all that stuff. So when she passed, fortunately, when I was on my way to the hospital the day that she died, I was flying. I mean, I was driving fast to get there because I was living in Boone at the time. And by the time we got to the hospital, 30 minutes later, she had passed away. And I said to Erin, it was the craziest thing. So Doc, it's ego. I literally said to her after I said, I'm not gonna cry anymore. I'm not gonna cry anymore. It was like my last tear was shed when put in the ground. I'm not gonna cry anymore. And for 5 years, I didn't shed a tear. 5 years. We left North Carolina. We moved to Delaware. We'd had all kinds of things happen. Movies movies sometimes will get you. A love song, maybe your wedding song, whatever the case may be. But dried up by choice, just dried up. And I thought I would get a badge of honor, tell somebody I ain't cried in a year. I hadn't cried in 2. Before you know it was 5. So I never forget 2012. We're sitting in this church. This lady was invited to come speak to the congregation about her bout with cancer. And she was telling the congregation how she and her husband, she had told her husband, I don't want anybody in the room coming into my house, family, friends, it doesn't matter, if they do not believe that I'll be healed. I'm telling you, don't let anybody in this room. And so she talked about how her husband had to be her anchor and keep family members out, because it was mostly family members wanted to cry and cry over her and all this other stuff. And I'm listening to that, but she talked about her redemption story and her healing and survivorship. And at the end of her conversation with the church, I just, the floodgates, sitting and just wailing. So much that Aaron was trying to console me. Members of that church were leaving. People were walking out. Some people were coming over. And I'm literally just like 5 years of a dam just exploding. And I'm just sitting in there. And so finally, the head pastor and the visitors, this lady came up. They were like, they noticing, why is he still with them? And so I could hear Aaron tell him his sister died of cancer 5 years ago. And he has not cried a tear in 5 years. And he needed to hear this, because I was in that thing about questioning and anger, why she couldn't have that same miracle that lady on the stage is talking about. And I needed to hear that it wasn't her fault. It wasn't, God wasn't mad at her. It's nothing that she did wrong. And all the things that I know now, my conscious mind knows that now. My spirit man is much stronger than it was in 2007, 2012. But at that time, I didn't know that. So when you talk about a form of mental health or stress or things of that nature, sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, the what they say, life and death is in the power of the tongue. You can really create some challenge for yourself by speaking things over yourself. And I said audibly, I don't cry anymore. I don't care. I'm not gonna cry anymore. And so I created my own situation, really, that was unnecessary. That had I gone to someone say, I'm struggling because my half is gone, I probably would have been in a better situation. I didn't, for my team, when we were in Delaware, we would celebrate birthdays and I wouldn't come to work. And they're like, where is he at? He's not here. I don't celebrate birthdays. Or if we were having some type of appreciation, such and such, I didn't come in. February 10th, I didn't show up for work. March 13th, I didn't show up for work, And so those 2 days were ingrained in my head for so long, because it was the day she died, our birthday. It went like that. And so I needed that. I needed that lady. That lady was sent to speak to me because when everyone left the church, I was still sitting in there wailing, and I needed to hear it's okay. It's okay. And so now, since then, say 12 years later, almost 13 years later, man, I'm the biggest baby. I could look at a picture, of the boys or reflect on something that maybe was said or a movie now or whatever and shed a tear, and it's cool. The way I tell the boys I love them often, and maybe just sitting there shed a tear because of the time I say it's cool to do that now. I have no barriers, no burdens. So
Isn't that a great?
that's
That's a great feeling. Not just just for the emotion as a man, just in general to cry, but just to show unwavering emotion anywhere, and it just be like, okay, like this makes me feel good. And crying is one of those things too. Is like, okay, like for me, like that and like going to church, right? Like, young, I mean, you guys know, like social media stuff, I'm out, I'll dance, lip sync, do my hands, whatever. But you go to church, it's almost like, hey, can I feel that same thing? Right? Like I go to a football game or basketball game and I'm clapping and I'm cheering and I'm doing that for a team. How can we not do that for the creator?
Woo, boy,
I
you
heard
ain't a
people there.
PK.
PK, I listened to some of them sermons.
Bro, that's
but how
deep.
can we?
That is so deep.
And you get to that point where it's like, how are you? If I go to a game on a Saturday night or a Saturday afternoon and I'm yelling, I'm screaming, and people see me because I'm there with 60,000 people or 70,000 people, and then I go to church on Sunday morning and I'm feeling that or emotional, or I'm just praising the one that created me, who I have a relationship with, I'm scared for what the person next to me is gonna do or say.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what this, like, put me on a Jumbotron or put you next to 60,000, doesn't matter. So that's one of the things too, for me, crying was one of those things. But then, growing up in church, it was different. It's like, and I had the mental chip of, oh, well, if I raise my hands and while I'm worshiping, it's going to be like, oh, look at the preacher's kid. He's fill in the blank. Or look at him. He's dancing. Oh, fill in the blank. Like, dude, I don't care. Listen, if you gonna feel it the way you want to feel it, I'm gonna feel it the way I want to feel it, and I don't care if I want to cry, if I want to, whatever. But that's a great feeling, Eric. So I'm glad that obviously you got to that point, because that's
Josh. Write that down, because that's a great future topic.
What's that?
The whole religion, the church, the feeling. Because I want to talk more about that, but this is not the.
It's not the time and place. No, I got you. But go ahead.
So,
go ahead,
but Eric, I'm with you there. We're all the same age, I think, real close, right? So we were brought up, men don't.
You guys are a lot older than me, by the way.
Right.
A lot older than me.
I was waiting for somebody to
right?
Not me. I ain't the same age as y'all.
Hey, grown folks are talking. Be quiet.
My bad.
So we're brought up with that attitude. Men don't cry, right? So I hadn't cried since I was a kid. I didn't cry for 2 years after my dad passed. And like you were saying, Eric, once it started, boy, let me tell you what, it didn't stop. But now I find myself over emotional most times. I watch something like you said on TV that it crushes me. But it's cleansing.
Yeah.
It's very cleansing.
100%.
So.
I may not use the word cleansing because I would like to think that I'm fairly clean, but it is definitely freeing.
We need to talk offline, buddy.
Yeah.
But no, Josh, I want to kind of circle back around that, because I heard my preacher say that probably about 3 or 4 years ago. He was like, how can you come in here hoop holler for the Dallas Cowboys or the Tennessee Volunteers, but yet you won't even clap your hands when you come to church and praise the Almighty? And that has like changed the way that I look at worship and everything. But I will say 2 years ago, when I made the choice that, hey, I'm gonna leave education alone, I'm not gonna come back in its truest sense, I was in a state of depression. And so I was also trying to qualify for some GI benefits at the same time. So I started talking to this counselor, and I went on these things, and man, when I say she used to tap dance inside my colon, she used to get all up inside her, brother. And she like, there you go again. You're not actualizing, but she said you're trying to justify, or you're trying to I can't think of the right word right now, but you're trying to you're trying to be
Rationalize it in your mind.
yeah, you're trying to be an academic, or you're trying to analyze, or you're trying to be analytical when it comes to answering the question. She's like, I want to know how you feel. And she gave me this little emotional chart. It's like, where are you? And I said, I'm good. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I was, I was, I, I was dumbfounded. And she was like, she broke out this little chart, and I'll have to try to find it. And she was like, so where are you on the chart? And there was a little diagram of the iceberg, right? And of course, you know, the iceberg, there's a lot of things going on above on the
Yep.
surface level, but there's so much more going on underneath.
Yep.
And I would always be on the surface level. And you know, I can spit out a sentence. Like I can put together a group of words to justify anything.
Right.
But she
Yeah.
was coming after her brother, and she was like, "No." She was like, "We're gonna make you think about this, and we're gonna let you kind of just rest in it." And so she did. Like I would try to answer a question, and she was like, "Now, how do you really feel?" Now, okay, again, how do you really feel?
Yep.
And I'm like, "Chick, if you don't leave me alone, I told you 10 minutes ago how I really felt."
Is this hour up yet? Is
And she would try to take me to this deep place. And bruh, when I allowed myself just to be completely free, not cleansed, but free, um, it did my soul so much good. And I felt like I could, you know, just be natural like Devo. Like I could be who I am, you know, as a man. And then I could also probably serve my family a little bit better as well, instead of putting up this plexiglass in front and not allowing my feelings to penetrate. So
you know what? You said that. Like we all do that, right? Like
right,
this, it's all here. Here's the secret. Figured this out. They see through that. We don't do a good job of we think we
we
do,
don't.
right? We don't. No, because and I figured that out it was a couple weeks ago, a month ago, and I was just having a day, right? Like I'm having a day, grab my son from ball or after ball or whatever, we come home and I'm just quiet. Like me being quiet, I've learned to get there because I need that. But my son doesn't, he's just like that. He's like me, like we run nonstop, 100 miles an hour all the time. But he comes in and I'm having his day, like work was crazy, stuff was going on. And I fixed dinner, we did our thing, whatever. And he's like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. He's like, are you though? And I'm like, dang, like 14 years old. But I think we're going back to culture and society. Like we're supposed to do that. That's what we're supposed to do. That's the, you know, it's like a quote I saw the other day. It's something like, when somebody says, hey, how are you doing? Do you just say okay because you don't want to say, hey, I'm depressed, I'm holding on for my life, I'm having this, and saying okay is just a whole lot easier than having to explain all that stuff. But we put that up to try to fend off anybody that may ask us. Because if they ask us, we're not going to tell them anyway. We should, we need to, but we're not. We put that up, but they see right through that. They're like, okay, dad's acting different. Oh, my husband's acting different, or they're acting different. Like, hey, what's going on? And if somebody doesn't push us or force us to do that in that moment, or we don't have somebody to talk to, that stuff just circulates in the mind. And I think it just will take us down a mentally draining, and then you're done. You're done.
I do that. But
You do that.
here's the caveat. I will say that to somebody that's not in my inner circle.
Right.
You guys are in my inner circle.
Right.
I've told you a bunch of stuff that I don't tell most people already. So yes, absolutely, because I have huge trust issues.
Yep.
If I don't know you well enough, I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Right. And I think that's the thing is for men finding that circle, it doesn't have to be a lot. If you're listening, you're a man, like the more people you have, the more issues you got. More money, more problems, more friends, more problems. Like have that circle to where you can just reach out. Obviously, you three are there, Matt's there. Like we can send something in the group chat. You're probably gonna judge me, but then you're gonna give me the honest answer too. We all gonna do that, but you're not holding that against you. Whereas somebody else, a man, we're all scared of that because we think they want to get our fill in the blank, our job, our money, our woman, take our like we can't trust that to give to those people because we've been hurt before. And it's just our own trauma that does that too. But it plays on the psyche and it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks for sure.
I want to acknowledge the question Amy put in the chat, and she talks about the ego and the id for all you psychology folks. But yeah, it rears its head. But I would kind of, for me, in the way that I think, I have to think of it differently. I don't kick my ego to the back seat. I actually bring my ego forward because I want to make sure that I acknowledge its presence, because its presence sometimes is larger than me in and of itself. And so I think once I acknowledge it, then I can try to deal with it more effectively, or at least more efficiently. And that's been kind of working for me. Before we jumped online, Eric brought up the thing, and I'm going to butcher it all up, so please jump in and save it. But he said Aaron, his wife, sent him an article about why do we tend to do things a little bit better in older in life. And it's because we know a little bit more. And I know I've kind of jumbled up that paraphrase there. But I think there's value to, one, just knowing and being able to call a spade a spade. And so I have to even call myself on my own inertia. I have to say, like, Devon, nah, bruh. You trying to paint it with that broad brush again. I'm gonna need you to get that fine brush and fill in those details and stay in the damn lines, right?
Right.
And so that's the way that I have to do it, because I have to see it. And so, like, I want my ego to sit right there beside me so I can check him constantly. And so that's something that I found that has worked for me. Again, when I stepped away from education, I was a mess because I was trying to figure out, like, where do I fit in this world? Like, and guys, so much we live by our titles. And some circles that we ran in, people would call me like Dr. Carson, and like, hey sir, or you had this ultimate respect. But when you run around on the sidelines with a camera, your best title is, hey, Mr. Pitcher Man, can I get that? Send that to me tonight before 11 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah, right.
It's a 30-minute drive. Like,
right.
Like,
yeah, I need a new profile picture by tomorrow. Edit it for me too.
So that ain't even possible. And so with that, I think, you just have to be real, and switching and keeping my ego front and center allows me to keep myself in check. Be like, hey, I still am somebody, even though I may not have that official title, or hey, I may not be rolling in the same circle that I spent half of my life trying to educate to earn. I'm still worthy and I still have value. And so you have to be careful not to allow yourself to slip into those. But again, it's filling in your circle, making sure that you have guys who you can kind of take off that mask and set it aside and be the real. Hey, tell me how my crap stinks. What could I possibly do different in another situation to get to where I say I want to be? Sure. And better yet, this reminds me too of accountability partners. Like, I need somebody who gonna check me, outside of my wife. Like, she does a wonderful job doing that. But I need somebody who stands and pisses, who can be like, look, bruh, that ain't it. And so I think that's very important too, is just to have someone in your life who can call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
You might laugh at me, but I'm going to tell you guys what has really helped me with my ego. And that's 15 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We have a saying, every academy you walk into, they all say, check your ego at the door.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to walk away really butthurt. And, it's
your back and your leg.
That's right.
And your arm. And
your
it's
neck.
all hurting.
But
my neck and my back.
I have learned so many life lessons from jujitsu, believe it or not. It's amazing. And once you learn to put that ego aside, life gets much easier.
Yeah,
Now, it's not to say that I don't struggle and that sucker doesn't creep in every now and then, but I'm better at recognizing it now and stuffing it back down.
Yeah,
But
I
it's a
bet you probably
struggle,
recognize it a whole lot quicker too.
definitely.
And that's the maturation process, is
true.
being able to name it and being able to grab it and doing something with it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Devo. I put mine. I have to take mine right beside me. I've also learned a lot about for myself personally on where I am and who I'm around. And I'll pull it back to being a preacher's kid. And I have a big personality. You guys know that. People watching know that. Some like I'm me all the time. Like, and I've been like this since 2 years old, and I'm still alive, which is surprising. But I've always been like this. But growing up, I was like, I'm the preacher kid. I can do what I want to do. It was a joke. It started out a joke, and then I would just use it. So now every preacher's kid I talk to, I'm like, hey, listen, you should use this because I used to use it. But in the big personality and the outgoingness, I was an athlete, oldest child, all those things just put it out to be, okay, he just wants to be the center of attention all the time. Oh, look at him. There was a part when, sure, I was that. And that's what I also was bullied a lot as a kid, all growing up. So that was my defense mechanism, was to make people laugh and be a better athlete than them, talk a little bit of trash or a lot of trash, and then back it up that way. So I didn't have to deal with that pain. But trying to go through mentally to go through all of that, I was always told that it was, oh, you just want to be the center of attention. You just want to be the loudest in the room, all of that. Whereas, yes, some of that's there. As I've gotten older, it's like, okay, I can still, like you said, I can still sit my ego right here with me. It's on my back. It's on my sleeve. It's everywhere. But I also know where I'm at and who I'm around to go, okay, I need to sit back. This isn't my show. This isn't my whatever, but it's taken me a long time to keep who I am there and just kind of shut that off. Like, keep your mouth shut, just listen more instead of having to do, always acknowledge or always be the loudest in the room or always have something to say. You can still have that ego with you. I have to keep mine because I'm with you. I have to keep it in check, or it keeps me in check, to still allow me to be me and not allow me to be somebody different. But I'm with you on that one.
Thanks.
So,
Well, hey, let me read another statistic. Depression in adolescence: about 12.8% of adolescents age 12 to 17 in the U.S. have had at least one major depressive episode, and this is according to the National Institute of Mental Health. Also, behavior problems, mental health issues in parents, especially mothers, have been linked to behavioral issues in children, including aggression, anxiety, and social withdrawal. All right, one more. Adverse childhood experiences, ACEs is what they call it. Children who grew up in families affected by mental illness are more likely to experience ACEs, such as parents' divorce, neglect, emotional abuse. These experiences significantly increase the likelihood of developing mental health problems later in life.
And that's shocking.
I thought it would be much higher than that, to be honest.
wow.
Yeah.
So with that, how do you, as a dad, recognize when your kids or when someone close to you is going through? And then how do you intervene as a dad?
I can jump in on that one. In our household, proximity matters, and it's right now more so than my oldest than my youngest. Because if you hang around him for any length of time, you'll think that it's like daffodils and fruit roll-ups and stuff. That boy's so happy-go-lucky. But my oldest is really starting to figure out his space and place, and I think he's kind of prepubescent. So some of that stuff is starting to kick in. He's like, Dad, smell my underarms and all that other stuff, and kids pick on me and things of that nature and stuff. And so when I say proximity, sometimes it's just that closeness, just to sit down, be right up on him, whether I put my arm around him or just sit close enough where we can hear each other breathe, and the silence to just let him talk about things. Um, I kind of old school in my thinking of way I thought it should be, just like, hey man, tough it out. You're gonna be all right, man. You know, man up, and all those things that you kind of think that's the right thing to say. But now the approach is different as he's getting older. It's just like I remember the time when I was a junior in high school, my mother sat right next to me and explained the notion about finances and the fact that it was a little challenging paying, to get my oldest in school, and then all the things that I thought that was going to prepare me for a school that was almost to the point where it might be taken away because of the finances. Not that they didn't want me to go to school, it was a little tough, and it all worked itself out. But it was that moment that I can always remember, is her sitting right beside me. It wasn't like standing up in the doorway telling me, hey, you can get a scholarship or else you're not going to school. It was just sitting right beside him, being vulnerable enough to share, hey, there's a little bit of struggle. We're going to need you to kind of tighten up. These next 2 years are going to really matter because, things are tight. And it, like I said, it all worked itself out. But I appreciate that, because now I see reflecting the moment where I do the same thing, is sit as close as I can to my boys, to just sit and listen to them. And it's almost like magnets, where you're just sending something without words, but your closeness is speaking a mouthful, and they feel that thing, and it's like, okay, Dad, okay, and then get up and go back downstairs, or leave them alone and let them think about it for a bit. But it's just I value that. Even I think about it in workspaces now with what I do, to have the independence to be able to leave when I want, schedule a couple of meetings, go home. I'm able to be around the boys more than maybe when I was in higher ed, 9 to 5, and that kind of hamster wheel grind. It's given more time for me to be there and be available, present, coaching, and being, daddy, but daddy coach and all that other stuff. So some of that stuff about proximity really matters to me.
Yeah, love that. Love that.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say about that too is I learned so much from my wife. Like, she is so freaking amazing, mom. Our middle child was sick at college this week, and I'm out of town currently. And she was like, I'm gonna go get her. And I was like, what you gonna go get her for? She was like, I'm gonna go get her and take her to the doctor. And I was like, well, why? And she was like, um, she probably just needs some mama time. And so she drove to Chapel Hill to pick her up, to take her to the doctor, only to turn around and drive her back. And of course, she was sick. She was legitimately sick.
Sure.
But I think that speaks to your point, Eric. It's just time. It's proximity. Could they do it on their own? Yeah, probably so. But I think I told you guys this when I got married and you guys were at my wedding. I said the biggest thing that I could thank you for is your time, because that's the one commodity that none of us can recreate, or can gain more of it, or can purchase it, or we destroy the heck out of it, but we can't buy more. And so anyone who gives of their time is telling you that you matter, and that you're valuable, and that you're precious. And so I think that is extremely um, therapeutic. I think that's extremely beneficial, and I think that is extremely communicative. And it speaks volumes. Speaks volumes that you're willing to wipe away everything that you could be doing, or turn off the ball game, and sitting by their side and just having a conversation. And like, a couple questions you could ask is, you know, what can I do to make things easier for you? And as a good counselor, right, always leaves those questions open ended, so that they can go in any direction that they want to go in, and not tell them what you think, but just asking. just asking and shutting your pie hole. Like it's so bad.
Yeah.
That's hard for us to do too.
For sure.
You know?
Definitely.
I mean, I'm not necessarily speaking to anybody particular, but me, it's hard for me.
I fall into that category for sure.
For show.
Yeah.
Hey, so I'm gonna tell you all, tell Radio Land this is the funniest thing, and I think that is the reason why I am with my boys just a sappy wet mess. So in my doctoral program, I had a chance to go to Europe the first year and Tokyo the second year, and on the way back from Tokyo, I was trying to find something to watch or listen to make the trip. And y'all gonna start laughing immediately when I tell you this, but in my Apple iTunes Apple player, I stumbled across Brian McKnight's old jam, "This Is My Prayer," and I've heard that song 1,000 times. I mean, sing it, keep it moving to the next track, or loop it and play it over again. But when I was sitting on the plane, with nowhere to go but just waiting to try to get back to the States, I went to the lyrics. And I looked at the lyrics while I was listening to that song, and I know you're gonna do it tonight. You break down that song by the lyrics, and he's talking about his child and he wish he had more time with his child while he was out on the road and all that stuff, grinding and all that stuff. And there's a point in that song, but when I'm gone, you'll have strength to carry on. Man, I listened to that song for 14 hours. 14 hours. I wrote the words down like I was doing a sonnet.
You trooper.
Because I saw the boys. I saw Ethan, and I wrote the words out. I got it on my computer, but I'm telling you, that song just like broke me down.
One, you like a dream come true. Two.
No, this is my prayer.
Don't make me mute your mic.
No, I'm saying if you listen to it for 14 hours, you definitely know how to count to 4.
Man. That just tells it all. I mean, that's the crux of the professional dad for me, is just breaking that song down, because there's nothing you would do for your children.
Having kids changes your entire outlook on life.
Yeah. Hey, you say that. I have a buddy of mine. He's in his mid-20s. He's one of the pastors at our church, and I've known him he's super, like, just young. They had their first kid, little girl, probably 2-3 months ago, I think. It didn't seem, obviously they were at home. So I came in and I said, and I'm kind of like big brother towards him, because he's in his 20s. So I'm like, hey man, I said, how's the wife? How's the baby? All that stuff. He's like, man, it's awesome. I said, you thought you loved your wife, didn't you? He said, Josh, it is absolutely insane. He's like, I love her more, obviously, than I did before. He's like, but I never thought that I could love another person. He's like, my whole everything's just changed. And I'm like, that's fatherhood, man. That is fatherhood right there, because it changes your whole trajectory on how you think about everything. It should. Obviously, there are some out there that it doesn't. We don't like those dads. We need to pray for them and need to get them on the podcast. But it changes for the majority of us, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
Good topic, man.
Hey, any closing words, Doc?
I thank you guys tremendously from the bottom of my heart, because every time we have an episode, it helps. It hurts because it makes me realize where I'm lacking in or where I'm doing good in, but it's definitely beneficial. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Yeah.
Same.
Anybody else with any closing remarks?
Devo, thanks for stepping in.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, I would just say, if you're out there listening, find your group, find your people, find you somebody you can trust, find you somebody that you can lay it all out there for, and they're going to listen first and foremost. Then they're going to give some advice. And if they don't know, you guys talk through it and work through it together. Don't be scared if you've been hurt in the past by female, male, whatever, but we're talking about dads, but moms too. Find you a group of people, find you a group, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the most, I would say, that you just trust with your life and they trust you with theirs, and build a community and build a bond. That's what we doing.
Definitely. But if you don't know, now you
Now you know.
know.
Now
But
you know.
no, closing out, I would just like to say thank you very much for tuning in. I would just like to also say that this mental health illness issue does not discriminate. I don't care if you're black, white, Chinese, purple, blue, green. I don't care what type of initials you got in the beginning of your name, the end of your name. It still affects all of us. So again, like Josh said, find your tribe, find your peoples,
Yep.
get connected. Make sure that you are spending time with your family. It's never too late to do the right thing. And if you know that you may have been a little short here or there, start today. Ask your child open-ended questions. Ask them what was the most exciting thing they did in school today. Ask them, is there something that bothers you about school? Is there some type of dinner that you would like to make? And then just spend time with them. Time is the greatest gift that you can
Hey,
give any individual. And
hey man, this track's only so long.
hey, hush your mouth. And put it on loop. Eric already told you, put it on loop, brother.
14 hours.
14 hours, loop that sucker. It'll still be playing next Thursday. Let's go. 9 o'clock. Same
Much
time.
love to you. Go do your thing, and we'll see you back next Thursday night, 9 p.m.
See, too short.
Don't put no